stage as well. We haven't seen Greg up here yet. Greg on our RE and WeedSmart extension team. Okay, so everything we're talking about these next few days about stacking things on top of each other. How many different tools can we stack on top of each other, all that help each other out? So we've started with two great things here, mix and rotate preems and crop competition. So what I want to do in this little Q&A, we've got 15 minutes, is to obviously answer any of your questions, but let's just talk about how do we do that in a practical sense on our farms. And I mean, Chris, you've just really shown us how to do it with that wonderful trial, how to stack good pre-em with crop competition that doesn't hurt the back pocket in implementing it. But I want to start by talking about what are the benefits of all of this. So mixing and rotating pre-ems, and you guys here, you all need a microphone. And you can share those around. Hopefully AV guys got those on, thank you. Mixing and rotating preems, what are our benefits? Shoot. Greg?
Oh, like Tim explained, the diversity of weed control, if you've got resistance to one group and you're introducing two groups in that pre-em application particularly, but also in post-em applications, the factor clethodim mix is a great example in pulses. So we've seen clethodim struggling, so once we start to mix and rotate, so mixing two groups on a herbicide population, there is both DIMs, as I know, but they seem to be getting more activity out of even a FOP and a DIM, but yeah, so that's a good example.
So resistance, conditions?
Synergy.
Synergy, okay.
Go back to the old trifluralin and triolate, root uptake, shoot uptake, so hitting them with two different modes of action, and yeah, the synergy of those two work really well.
And Tim, you haven't said anything yet. So conditions, different soil moisture, mixing two herbicides together can make the most out of that.
Yeah, and I also strongly believe that like every herbicide's got their limitations. So hopefully you can part the two together that can sort of overcome the limitation of each of the two.
Yeah, so one might need more rainfall than the other to fire up, that sort of thing.
Or how it binds to organic matter.
Yeah,
length of activity. I think length of activity is a big one. So, yeah.
Plant back as well.
Plant back, okay.
Yeah, this year we've found that Sakura's sort of hung around a bit longer than what it should.
Okay, yep, righto. So got all those benefits. Now crop competition. What are our benefits of crop competition? Is it a lot of them?
A big one for me is the reduction in seed set. So it's a bit of a hidden observation, but you see a weed like wild oats. So while sometimes we get frustrated we haven't controlled a full population, when you've got a competitive crop like hybrid canola, for example, the wild oats might still sneak through. You still, if it's under pressure from crop competition with that hybrid canola compared to something like stingray, you're reducing that seed production sometimes up to 60-70%. So it's really significant. But whilst we like to see every weed dead, sometimes the actual effect of reducing seed set is pretty significant, as Chris showed in some of his photographs.
And it's really just free control too. So generally more competitive crop, you're going to get more yield. Plus if you control ryegrass, or whatever weed it is, keep your seed set down. It's just all works into the system.
It's less weed seed set, more yield. And Chris, I want to prompt you on this one. There's an old saying that says seeding starts at harvest, but you're saying you flipped it around and said harvest starts at seeding. Do you want to talk a bit about that?
Yeah, well, that's just a personal opinion. I don't know how widely it's adopted, Peter, but I just feel, as I sort of presented, that your harvest weed seed management strategies only take in whatever can go in the header. If we can actually get that particular number right down for a start, then we're actually looking at less seed potentially going in the header. So if I pick that brome grass again at 50%, if there was 1,000 seeds possibly that could have gone in without any crop competition or whatever, we're only getting 500 in the header, whereas if there was only 100 due to crop competition, then 50 are getting through. So just a numbers game again.
Yeah, the numbers game. There's also another part of it as well, isn't there? Competitive crops, they compete for light. The weeds have to grow up to get the light, so that generally the weed seeds are sitting up higher in the canopy when it comes to harvest as well, is the other part of it.
just one extra thing. I only came across it late last week, and that was where we'd actually had for those lentil growers, which most of you may be, they're pitiful at actually competing early on, and radish will just take advantage of that, and once it's got its head up above that canopy, it just branches out, as you've seen. But where we had really competitive lentils that got the canopy closure, there wasn't a radish to be seen. But where it was, whether it be health of the crop or soil type or whatever, where they were quite short and thrifty, the radish were everywhere. So that, you were saying about crop competition, if we can get it competitive, then we're actually not stimulating a weed germination as well.
Sorry, Pete, one other thing on crop competition, and it stands with Chris's work with barley, is that it's to be strategic. So I guess don't get hung up on thinking, we've got to sow all our crops to barley on a lentil stubble and things like that. Just think about it. We all know our paddocks post-harvest when we do the rankings and reviews, what's yielded well, what's had a good profit from $1 per hectare. Just break it down to being strategic. So Chris's data is just fantastic. So we've got paddock X, it gives us grief every single year. Let's do something different, like putting barley on a lentil stubble, target the weeds, get some crop competition in there, but on your other cleaner paddocks, you might stick to your normal rotation. So don't sort of take all this in and think, that's not going to work on my place. Actually think of it from a strategic point of view in your own business.
Righto. Now, I will open up to questions to all of you in just a moment. So if you've got a question, we will get there. But Tim, you gave us a bit of a list of mixes, pre-em mixes that you're using. And I guess the other thing we should point out here, when we're talking about mixing and rotating herbicides, they don't have to be in the same tank. So, we can talk about, say, propizamide pre and clethodim or glyphosate post if it's Roundup Ready canola. It's double knocks. It's all about double knocks. How many hits can we get at the same population with multiple herbicides? But just some of the practical things, I think you said yourself, Tim, that a few years ago you didn't put anything with Sakura. Now you're finding yourself putting trifluoralin with Sakura more so and so on. Just give us a couple of examples maybe of a rotation where you can get that mix and rotate working well, where, a cereal and a legume getting, a good mix and rotate one year and a different mix and rotate the next?
Yep. Well, I do definitely think that we're probably mixing and rotating more in our legume phase than we have in our cereals for a long time. So, I think it hasn't been too long in the past that we've only started implementing propizamides, so and other things, and really taking the pressure off clethodim. Clethodim resistance, I think, is the biggest issue for the Wimmera. It really is. So we're very in tune or used to cleaning up paddocks in our grass, in our broadleaf phase of our rotation. I know the old school farming method was, you didn't worry if a bit of grass got through your cereal crop because you'd clean up next year in your legume phase, but we just can't do that anymore. Every year we've got to aim for as low a seed set as possible, and I suppose that does come back to the mixing rotating. So it'd be nice to be able to mix and do more post-emergent stuff in cereal, but if we're growing conventional cereals, we're pretty limited what we can do post-emergent. But I suppose other examples are potentially using Treflin or Treflin Abidex, but generally for me it'd be just straight Treflin, IBS, and then coming back with Pro-Sulfucarb early post-emergent. Or I find Pro-Sulfucarb very safe on the crop if you're not using Box of Gold, you're not using the metallic law, so that can go on pre-emergent. Even with a knife point press wheel system, it doesn't seem to hurt it too much at all. So just trying to really mix things up, do as many different things as we possibly can. So and don't just don't just do the same thing every year, which we tend to do. Whatever worked well last year, we just tend to just keep doing it. So it'll be exciting to see Overwatch and Luximo, what that does to our rotation. So I think we're also probably already budgeting those sort of higher cost preems now, so it's not going to be there's not that much of a mindset change when it comes to expense to go to these new ones, so it'll be great to see. But we don't want to overuse them and forget about Secura and Box of Gold, because they still do work really well around here.
Righto. Chris and Greg, did you have any comments to make about mixing pre-Ms, mixes that are working in your areas, and how you're starting to think about it, or just the mix and rotate approach in general?
Yeah, definitely. As you saw, we've got some major issues in our ryegrass with resistance. But there was an interesting one a client did last year where we'd planned Sakura and Avidex, but he was going out earlier, like up to a week, I think it was, and obviously didn't want to put the Avidex out for lateralisation reasons. So he mixed the Sakura with the glyphosate and then came back just before and did the trialate paraquat. So I just thought it was a unique way that the Sakura was already starting to work, and we could actually see the result of that with a little bit of rain in between. So it's probably a thought or a challenge to me that the pre-Ms don't have to be necessarily all pre-M, because a lot of them have now got 3-day incorporation, 7-day incorporation. So there's a chance that we can actually be putting them out on bare ground or putting them in with a glyphosate and then just delaying it a bit more, get a better knockdown.
Anything to add, Greg?
Just to add to that, it's the crop rotation option as well. So we're talking about stacking different combinations of pre-Ms. So if you're in well, for us in southern New South Wales, a tight rotation of canola wheat, your stacking of pre-Ms gets pretty limited, whereas if you throw in another crop such as a pulse or barley, that sort of enables you to keep stacking those options over 3 to 4 years rather than just 2. So crop choice just opens up so many options in terms of different herbicide choices, like Tim explained in the Wimmera here, with all the different crop choices you have that are profitable, actually gives you a lot more pre-M options to mix and rotate.
Thank you, gents. Now I've hogged all the questions. What about you? Is there any questions from the audience for our panel? Well, just a moment, got a microphone there, Sam.
The new chemicals that are coming out, are they going to be compatible with discs or more towards tines?
Unfortunately, they're both saying they won't be registered with discs, but I know I'll have clients playing around with it, and the main thing is seed and chemical separation. Like both companies have said at least 30 mil separation, and they've done a lot of trial work with disc systems, and yeah, there's just been unacceptable yield loss, I'll call it, due to crop establishment issues with them. So they won't be registered in discs, but farmers will have a crack anyway.
There are a few products getting around. I don't know if any of the companies want to comment. I know the new Bayer product will have early post-emergent as well, Bayer 167. There's a question over here, Lisa. And BASF, the two Group Gs mixed together, that's got some knockdown early post-activity, am I right? Is there someone from BASF here that can confirm that? Yep. So Luxamax will be just pre, won't it? But the Veraxor could potentially be early post, am I right? Or yeah. Yeah. I think in summary, I think there will be some options for disc machines.
Nothing's registered in discs, though, Sam. And every disc works different too, so you have got to work it out for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, Sakura is a great example. When it came out, there was no registration for discs, and it's sort of something we have a lot of disc clients and we use really confidently. And the configuration of discs, like Tim said, makes a big difference. But also we find soil conditions have a huge difference. We've seen it with the Luxamo demos this year, or Luxamax, as it's sort of been known, that a stable soil structure is giving us more crop safety than one that's poorly structured, like that soil health aspect. So if we've got a sodic soil or a soil that lacks structure, it's really hard to get it to move out of the furrow and give you crop safety. So, and that's really hard for a chemical company to put on a label when they have no control over soil structure. But we see quite big differences within different farming systems.
Thanks, Greg. Another question in the middle here.
Propyzamide can be hit and miss, like you said. Has there been trial results on propyzamide IBS versus mixing with your clethodim application on canola? What sort of results you get when usually there's a bit of moisture in the soil at that stage?
So propyzamide post you're talking about?
Post sowing mixed in with your clethodim.
You mean propyzamide?
Propyzamide, yeah.
Yeah, look, I've had the best results probably post-sow pre-em, as long as there's sort of that 10 mil rainfall event coming within a week. Otherwise, we'll do it up front, incorporated by sowing, but that obviously leaves the chemical out of the row. In terms of post-stem, yeah, look, it doesn't seem to upset the actual clethodim result, but again, I've probably had, and again, it's only York Peninsula again, I can't speak, maybe Tim can speak locally, but I probably haven't seen as good a jobs post-stem with propyzamide. It's a real hit and miss. You're relying on the clethodim doing most of the lifting and shifting.
There's been a fair bit of talk about early on the piece when propyzamide was sort of starting to be used, and it's not really a common use practice, so if it sort of worked well, I think there'd be a lot more people using it. So I've definitely tried it. I think it gives suppression. I've never really seen it give overall control. If you're too early on the canola, I've definitely seen it knock it around. So there's the crop safety aspect to it. I definitely believe it's a pre-emergent, not a post-emergent. And probably the same thing for pro-sulfucarb in cereal. Like, you can use it post-emergent, and a lot of people do, but it's nowhere near as good as using it before the ryegrass has germinated. So yeah, all these pre-emergents are really targeted at controlling before it's up. I think it's really quite hard on them trying to get knockdown control once they're out of the ground.
I'll just back that up because, yeah, prosulfocarb, propyzamides, I've even seen trials with the 851, I think it is, the Direxor and Kicksaw products, up to about that 2-leaf stage of ryegrass. Like, you've just got to get it on. And we used to have a theory of, or rule of thumb, that 1 litre of box of gold for every leaf. So really, as soon as you're up to 3 leaf, you're really up to paying big dollars for it, and you lose your control.
I'll just finish up with a couple of comments there. Propyzamide isn't variable in Western Australia. It's very reliable. It's arguably our best pre-em. It's right up there with Sakura, for example. And I'm in a WhatsApp chat group with the Synergy agronomists in WA, and that came up recently about propyzamide post in canola, and a few of them were saying, yeah, I think it's all right, and then one guy said, no way, don't ever do it. Saw huge damage in some canola. So, yeah, I think that was good enough for me. It probably is one of those things you might get away with it a few times and then it will bite you.
Can I just add to that, Peter, too? There's, without saying oils ain't oils, there's propyzamides and there's propyzamides. Anything that's made or manufactured in Australia is generally quite a good product. Most of the granules are as well, but the liquids you really got to be a bit careful on.
All right, well, I do think we need to wrap this session up. We've gone a couple of minutes over and we don't want to go over during the day. So thanks to our panel and to our speakers. Thank you.